This is a short video to help brief our locomotive crews working with us as we try and re-establish the Festiniog railway service running between Portmaddock and Tannerburg. I think it's fair to say things are different. We are having to do things in a different way, and more than ever we're asking for the help and support of our loco crews to make this all happen. Although this is not necessarily the story you want to hear when you come for your loco turn, I have to just give a little bit of information about the financial situation of our company and what we're trying to do. So the COVID crisis has meant that we've been able to operate hardly any trains so far this year, and in reality that means we've probably lost a couple of £1 million of income already in this year. Our turnover is £6 million a year. Chances are we will lose most of that this year. We have reduced our costs to an absolute minimum, and a large proportion of the staff who work for the railway are on the furlough scheme. So that means they're not here and can't work. Our strategy, plan, call it what you will, has been to bring back parts of the business where we can make some money that will help go to cover the overheads of keeping the place going. Each month, with no trains running, it costs £50,000 a month simply to pay the most limited skeleton staff and pay all the standing orders, electricity bills, fees, licences and so on. All the things that we need to run a railway are £50,000 a month. Hey, we've got a big railway. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to build back from a all closed situation by opening up small parts of the business and making sure that they are adding something to our financial situation, not taking away from it. I'm sure, as you can imagine, if we ran the full service, it would cost a lot of money and we probably wouldn't be making any profit out of it. So we need to go a little bit at a time. You will see that we have some of our engineering staff working at the railway again now, and they're working on funded projects and external projects which bring some income and help to pay the overheads. So they're very important to us right now. And that means that when you see people like Rob Cohn, Mike Taylor, Martin Buckley and co working for us, they're trying to earn as much money as possible to bring cash in to help us, and we're trying to give them a clear run at the work that they need to do. And so we're trying to do only the essential maintenance necessary to keep these locos running that we need for the service. We will do that work, we will do that maintenance, but we're always trying to strike a balance there. In terms of resources are very limited. So many of our staff remain furloughed, even though we're just starting to bring in a small service. The service from Portmaddock to Tannerburg, as I'm sure you can imagine, cannot bring in the kind of money that the normal service would bring. Let's just put it in perspective. In August, the income from ticket sales is normally between £500,000 and £600,000. If we get to 100,000 this August, we will be very pleased indeed. And what we're asking you to do with your work on the locos is make the contribution to be able to operate that service. Never have volunteers been more important to us in that respect. In terms of resources, can I just say that we've been very careful with everything that we have to buy. So please, economical firing really counts at the moment. A litre of oil, be it bearing oil or cylinder oil, is £2.50, something like that. So, if you're oiling the slide bar and you think you'll just put an extra squirt on for luck, that you know is going to be rubbed off and fall on the floor the moment that slide bar moves, then please don't do it. Think of it as money. Oil costs money. Please use the oil you need, but don't waste it. And that goes for oil, coal, water treatment. All costs money. Brasso, £12 a tin, something like that. We want to keep the engines clean. We absolutely do, but be careful with it, and use sparingly, use sensibly, please. As ever, if you can bring some rags with you when you come, that's really appreciated as well. But in terms of resources, we are tight on staff resources as well. So where there normally might be many people that you could call on to report faults or ask for a bit of help, they are limited. Both Tony Williams, our works manager, and John Wally, our chief engineer, are largely on furlough at the moment, and Phil Brown is working part-time and largely from home. So these are the kind of things that we're having to deal with. So, sorry to have to go through all that, but welcome back to Boston Lodge, and thank you for planning to come and join us and to help us run the service to Tannerbalk. It can make the world of difference. And what follows now is a little bit of information about what your arrangements at Boston Lodge will be. My final point is, it's a different service. Right? It's a different service to what we normally run. We need to run the service very carefully. So for example, we're running to Tannerbalk at 15 miles an hour maximum. So if you go hurtling up the hill at 20 miles an hour and arrive there 15 minutes early, you're doing nobody any favours at all. What we've got is a plan where customers have a longer journey to Tannerbalk, a longer journey time to Tannerbalk, and then spend time there walking around, buying coffee and so on. It's important that we work to the working timetable. So I guess what I'm saying is, please read the instructions that Phil and Control have been offering and have been putting out, and please try and work to them. So what follows now is a little bit about how to arrive at Boston Lodge and how we're working around the site. Thank you. When you come to Boston Lodge, I'd like to ask you if you would park in the sandpit site, please, and not in the top yard. Why? Reason for that is that we're just trying to keep everybody and everything spaced out. The more space and fresh air we've got around us, the safer it is. And we're doing that wherever we can, although we appreciate we can't always do it. So with the sandpit site, it's the safest place to park. We are concerned about people parking down in the lay-by because of limited space down there, and also we're trying to discourage access to Boston Lodge via the toll gate steps. So please park in the sandpit. Just a few words about these two spaces here. We're reserving one of these spaces for the residents at Boston Lodge Cottages, and also we're asking you not to park immediately against the wall of Plas Smart. It's because the structural engineers have actually asked us if we can take some of the material away from here because it's bearing down on the wall. So we're going to do that at some point, but parking a heavy car on top of it is not helping the building. So we'll put a marker up there, but please leave a space for the residents. Anywhere beyond is okay for our crews. During lockdown, we've made quite an effort to clear up Boston Lodge Works and to get rid of some of the stuff that's been lying around the site. And can I ask you all to help us continue to do that? Here in the top yard, a lot of the material has gone, the waste material. So when you arrive, what's going to happen is we're going to ask Loco crews to please go to the right and through the barrier and through the controlled roadway. That's the route into Boston Lodge now for Loco crews, whereas workshop staff will be going over to the left and past the den in the way that most people normally do. Reason for that, again, it's spacing, keeping everybody apart, keeping some fresh air around us. It's for your safety, and as we walk through here you'll see where we've put some different facilities in place. Just talking about cleanliness, if you could help me, I'd be grateful. We have been trying to remove any bits of loose plastic that are on the floor, cable ties, bits of bags and so on, because we're next to the sea and we're worried about plastics going in the sea. There's a lot being washed up on the Cobb. We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing and not adding to that problem. So if you do see plastic on the floor and you can pick it up and pop it in the bin, I'd be most grateful. This is particularly important at the moment because we're working towards the second round of our National Lottery Heritage bid. We've got a lot of visitors coming to site to see the buildings, to assess our project, and we want to look as good as we reasonably can for those people that are visiting. Now I appreciate that this is an unusual addition to Boston Lodge, but just to explain what's going on, we've identified that one of the high risk areas in Boston Lodge Works is the den, which has very narrow corridors, very small spaces. And so what we've said is that we don't want to have lots of people going through there all at once. So we have provided some extra loos here outside number 1 Boston Lodge. with thanks to Paul Martin, who's allowed us kindly to tap into his water supply. So what we're doing is we're making it that these are the Loco crew loos, and the workshop staff will continue to use the den. We're part way through putting these in place. They're the Dinas temporary toilets that are used for events. So we brought them here and plumbed them all into the Boston Lodge sewage system. They're quite handy for the locker room, which I know a lot of the Loco crews use. Okay, so when you have used the locker room and the loos and you're making your way to the Loco shed, could we ask you to go this way and walk through the yard in the fresh air and not through the workshops, which we're keeping as a separate location for the work staff, so we can keep our social distancing. Now, if I could just assure you that we're not being awkward in any way with our plans at Boston Lodge. We are just trying to make sure that everybody is safe. And one of the things that we realise is that when the workshop doors are open, people do tend to wander in. And because there's some narrow and constricted spaces, all of a sudden you can find 3 or 4 people all in the same place together. And that can be quite distressing. So what we've said is, please, if you need to go into the workshop, if you need to call for one of the fitters, if you need some help, then please either ring the relevant supervisor or fitter's mobile phone, or knock on the door, holler, get some attention. But please don't just walk in. Please respect other people's space, and we'll try our best to do that in the Loco shed as well. I know it's tough, but if you could help with that, it will really help with the safety of the staff and everyone. Okay, so your way into the Loco shed each morning is through these doors into number 6 road. And what we've tried to do is we've tried to clear out the Loco shed, so there's only a few engines in at a time. So normally, just the 3 engines that are in service that day should be in here. We may occasionally put one over in the wet shed, 9A or C, because we may be swapping locos around, but normally you'll come here and the loco you're using should be here. It may occasionally be 4 in there, not 3. But this is where we'll keep the locos. We've put the fairlies and everything else out the way for the time being. As I mentioned in the introduction, there's been a distinct element of make, do and mend and use the resources that we've got available to us to get us set up to be able to run this service. So this is the back of 6 and 7 roads in the Loco shed, and what we've done here is we've made brew making facilities available. So there's a kettle, there's a fridge. By the way, this is work in progress. We're just fitting this all out at the time of making this recording, but by the time you visit it should all be in place. But we've got, say, tea making facilities here. We've plumbed in a sink over the back there for washing cups and so on. Now, in terms of cups, please would you bring your own mug and keep it to yourself. We will, of course, leave some disposable cups here in case you've forgotten. At the end of using your disposable cup, I'm sure you know how to get rid of it. I'm sure you've each got your own personal incinerator with a door on and some nice coal inside that you can apply it to. So please just get rid of cups when you've used them. Can I ask everybody to help us just keep the place tidy? We don't have any cleaners at the moment for fairly obvious reasons. We're keeping numbers down. So if you each clean up after yourself, that would be really, really appreciated. We put a few chairs in here, so if you need to pop in and change into your overalls, there's somewhere to sit down while you're putting your boots on or whatever. Also, there will be some extra lockers brought in here. Now, the idea is that you put your equipment in your locker for the duration of your stay, and at the end of the stay, please would you take your overalls away with you. I know some people have got lockers in the den, and what we'll do with that is we'll make it so that you can go to your locker when you first arrive with arrangement with the supervisor, bring your stuff and put it in a locker here. It stays here for the duration of your visit, and then you take it out and put it away again. Please don't leave stuff in the lockers after your visit. We've all got to share. It's just the time that we're in at the moment. Can I also say that if you have used a locker, at the end of it, please could you wipe it over with sanitising spray and wipes, which are normally kept next to the sink on the table at the back there. All the things you need for booking on are here. We found this handy shelf. We've recycled Lilla into a booking on shelf. That may vary over time, of course. But there's handy booking on shelf. There's the Loco logbooks. There's information like duty cards, weekly notices, and so on. You'll see in the instructions that with regard to booking on, you now do that by texting the supervisor to tell them that you are here, and again when you book off, let them know that you've gone. In terms of timesheet, please keep one. Keep it to yourself, take it home with you. We don't mind whether it's paper, digital or whatever, but if we need to see your timesheet, then very simply take a photo and email it to us. So hopefully by doing this we can keep the number of interactions down and the number of transmission points for the virus to be kept at bay. I think that it's fairly reasonable to say that locomotives are not a particularly hospitable place for the virus to live, but we don't know. So if you did, as a favour to your fellow locomen, pick up a wipe and just wipe the obvious controls and that at the end of your day, that would be great. One final thing while I'm here, I just want to talk about face coverings. When you're working on the locomotive, we ask that you wear face coverings. And we found in our tests that the best way to do this really is when you're both on the locomotive, driver and fireman, please put the face coverings on. And we found that when the fireman hops off to do coupling up and things like that, that sometimes the driver just wants to drop his face covering so he can get a bit of fresh air, because it can get a bit hot and uncomfortable. When you're working around the locomotive, there's no requirement or no rule that says you have to wear a face covering, but it's good to do so just in case you bump into somebody. But also if you're outside and in the 2 meters, keep 2 meters space, that's by far the best way to manage things. So just be mindful of others while you're doing that. I'd just like to speak momentarily about what work we expect of you if you are rostered as a standby crew. We really need your help to keep the place tidy and to look after the engines. So if you've got a standby loco, please prep it, make sure it's clean and tidy, cleaning tubes and so on. If you need to take the spark arrestor out to clean the smoke box end, then please do just consult with the fitters so they can tell you when it was last done, and they can check it when it goes back in. We are in high summer and of course the fire risk is high, so we must continue to be careful about that. But if you could keep the place tidy, we'd really appreciate it. A group of volunteers have worked hard to tidy up the loco shed before this service starts, so you can keep the floor tidy, throw away any rags. If the bins are full, please go and empty them into the skip. Please can you keep on top of the firewood pile as well. There's a fairly good crop of firewood in the container, but if you do get a chance to just top that up and you have a few minutes, again that will help. So anything that you can do to keep on top of the cleanliness of the loco shed would be really appreciated. We don't have any cleaners, there's no one else to do it, so we're relying on our volunteer staff to help us with that.